Hello Empire, Garrett here with this week's edition of Region's Corner. So this week, I'm going to go ahead and cover how to make a leather bracelet. Since I'll be teaching a live demo class on this in Ruckus this year in a few weeks, figure I'd go ahead and do some video where we do a little homework so you can get an idea of what to expect for the class, and or just, if you want to do something at home. So, start off with, give you a couple examples. This is going to be a very simple, older bracelet that I made. We'll be showing how to do this one. This is the kind of style we're going to cover today. It's about a 1.5 inch wide band. Another one, I'll have patterns for all these if you come to my Ruckus class. I call this the medallion pattern because obviously right now I put a stamp there, but we can put a concho or a medallion there. So it makes it look really cool. You do something like that, right? And so we got this one here I made for the wife with some artwork and a concho on it. This is another slightly wider, probably closer to 2 inch. And then, of course, the big boy, the wrist cuff with double there. This is also going to be a pattern I'm going to have for the class. So, for thickness of leather, I don't like to go any less than 5 to 6 ounce. I think you start getting thinner than that, it just becomes a really too thin for my taste. But I might just like thicker bracelets. You can always go thicker, for sure. I've used, thick as 7 or 8 ounce leather. I think is probably about as thick as I would do for a bracelet. But I wouldn't go less than 5 to 6 ounce. I think 4 to 5 is just too thin by the time you're done. So, with that being said, now let's get into sizing. How do you size for your bracelet? You can guess. Best thing to do is honestly take a bracelet you already have that you like and fits you well and lay it out and measure that. Barring that, if you don't have a bracelet you already like, you can take a piece of string, wrap it around your wrist here, and you're going to measure it from one end. Obviously, you're going to get the circle around your diameter of your wrist, and then you're going to lay it on your ruler, and then you measure that. So for me personally, I like about a 9 inch length. I prefer a little bit snugger, tighter diameter on my wrist. That's just the way I am. But, you can make them looser, you can make them bigger. It's all personal preference. But for the purpose of today's video, we're going to measure out 9 inches. So we're just going to take the measure. Use my marker. And we don't have to do anything pretty with it. And I'm going to mark 9 inches. Now for this one, we're going to keep things super simple. I'm just going to use my 1.5 inch round punch. And if you don't have a round punch, I've said before, you can use a similar enough round object that's big enough. I mean, it could be anything, even a Wendy's cup or a plastic cup. Anything round enough, you can draw there and do that. And that will get you your roundness what you need. So we're just going to... Oh, that was a bit thicker than... So we're just going to put that right on that mark. I'm going to use my nice big heavy brass hammer. And we cut that end. And then we're going to cut the other end. Now, as you can see, I have a rubber board behind that. You definitely don't want to be doing this on against your kitchen table or against hardwood or anything like that. One, you'll damage your punch, and two, you will definitely damage what's underneath if you don't. So you can get rubber, and I've talked about this before, a nice rubber pound board, rubber mat, truck mat of sufficient thickness. And so now we have our 2 round ends. We're just going to keep this super simple. For the line snaps, we're going to use a 1/8 inch number 2 hole. And we're just going to, so what I like to do is get an idea of a feel for where I want the hole. I just line up my punch there. Get my little my awl. Give me a mark. So I have my little indent right there. And then we're going to take there. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the spot. Fold it over. And this is where, if you make it longer, shorter, you can even test fit it over your wrist. So if you test fit it, so you'll know how thick, if you get the proper height for it, not height, length. So I'm going to fold that over, and we're just going to put it just inside. Boom, we got another print there. So that's going to mark it where we're going to have the hole. And now, of course, we're not going to punch this just yet, but we got our holes marked. Next comes, what do we want to do with the artwork? Well, first, because this is going on the wrist, and I believe in comfort, we're going to take a number 1 edge beveler, and we're going to go ahead and bevel those edges, because this is part of fit and finish, and plus it'll just make it a nicer, more comfortable. Because you ever buy like a bracelet and they didn't bevel the edges and they have the sharp edges on the corners there, digging your skin, kind of sucks. I don't like that. So I just feel like that's just a cheap Ren Fair bracelet thing that you find at a lot of craft places, or a lot of craft booths at like Ren Fairs and Comic Cons and all that stuff. They're a nice seller because they're usually quick and easy to make, especially if I didn't want to take the extra time to edge and bevel. I would just dye it, stamp it, boom, done. 5 minutes, sell it for $10, $15. It's a good money maker. But this is Amp Guard. We're going with fit and finish and professional look. So now that we skipped our edges, the next thing is really a matter of artistic interpretation and taste. What do you want to do? We can make a very simple, plain bracelet. Like right now, at this point, we could literally just dye it and call it done. We could add all kinds of lines and carves, and I've been saving this one, but so we could do that. We could stamp it. I could do all kinds of lovely stuff. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. So I'm going to do something I like to do a lot. So we're going to run a stitch groover. Oh, let me do this on camera. Now I will say, practicing getting around those ends, getting that nice smooth corner there takes time and practice. I can tell you that. Yeah, kind of screwed up there. So you want to push that up against the leather and have that be your guide. Because if you start walking it away, or you don't there, There we go. So I don't know if you can really see that. Let's see. So you get a nice groove there. Now, kind of messed up a little bit right there, but that's okay. We're just doing a thing. So the reason I do the groove lines, a couple things. One, I like the look of it. Two, especially if I'm going to stamp, I like to generally, depending on how fancy I get with my, we're going to go ahead and wet this leather, because we're going to be stamping it here in a minute. No more water. There we go. We'll let that water soak in there. As you see the water nice and soaking in right there. So we're just going to let that soak for a minute while we really decide what we want to do next. Now, if I were going to say put a 3D stamp in the center, that's why I like the lines too. That helps me line it up. If I also wanted to say do something like I did with this one, where I did a background texture stamp with the edge, I would do that, but we're not going to necessarily do that because we could paint this outside if we wanted to. We could carve it, we could stamp it. We could do a whole kinds of cool things, like a really cool geometric honeycomb design. I might do one with that one day. There's all kinds of stuff we can do. So let's just say, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to be using a M882 Craft Aid stamp. I'm going to use the big one because I want to cover a lot of area really fast. And no, I'm not going to tape this up like I normally would. So here we're going to just do this background stitching. Now when you're doing a stamp like this, you want to overlay it and overlap. Otherwise you're just going to have circles. And we don't want that. So we're just going to get this. Now, when you have a bigger circle like this, you're going to have to hit it with a little bit more force to get that proper imprint. And I would just continue this through on. So I'm not going to stand here and spend an hour on this video doing that. So we're going to do it all the way through there. Let's see, we gotta go ahead and we're gonna do a concho in the center. So when I'm lining up my stamp or my concho, I like to go ahead and have my button in place, figure out the center. Okay, and once again we're gonna more or less center that, kind of eyeball it. I'm going to press the hole, and then I'm going to get my and with this one we're going to use the same number 2 1/8 inch hole. Okay. So now that we know where the hole is, I'm just going to do this around so you get a feel, just to see how that's going to look. And then during the class, I'm going to have lots of stamps and everything so you can do however you like. We're not even, you know, you don't have to get all crazy with the background stamp. So that's going to look like that. So when that's hole in there, probably go up a size. Yeah, let's go up a size on that hole punch. So then this one, yeah, we'll use a 3/16. That should be. Plenty big enough now. Plenty enough room for that to drop in. Yeah, there we go. So now we have our concho set up. We have our holes, everything set. We're just going to go ahead and dye this. So for dyeing, because we're going to do this speed style, I'm going to be using some medium brown Angelus leather dye. This is alcohol based, really good stuff, high quality dye. And because we're using a small project, I'm going to go ahead and use my small dauber. Obviously, normally I use a big lambskin if I want to do something bigger. But with a project small like this, where we're really just only going to do one color, we're just going to go ahead and dye it in. Real nice, like. Get all those edges. Now, we're going to do both inside and outside because we want to fully let the leather be sealed. So we're just gonna get all the edges. You gotta pay attention to that edge work because that'll make or break a project. That's the difference between a professional, well fit and finished project and something that looks much more amateur, and it's definitely something we will cover in a future video on basically how to judge leather. So if you're like, I know nothing about leather because I never watched any of your videos, I will make a video on what I look at, what I look for when I judge leather pieces. So now the back side obviously doesn't need as well even as the front. We just want to make sure it's fully dyed, and that's going to help protect it because we're going to end up sealing it and all that once it's dried. Now, obviously at this point, we would let it dry. We'd have all our stamping done. We're going to dry it. So, for the purpose of this video, we're just going to kind of pretend it's dried, because we can still work with it right now. It's not going to make a difference. I would go ahead and add my Resinline clear coat to both sides because we want to clear coat it. We're going to go ahead and install our concho in the center. Now the conchos are typically screwed back. This one, we'd screw it in. Screwdriver. Now you can also use a little bit of blue Loctite if you really want to make sure that's never going to come, not going to just back out and fall its way out. Actually, this one might actually need a washer. So we have our concho. Now we're going to set our buttons, our snaps. I'm using a line 24 snap. It's a fairly bigger, it's one of the biggest snaps you're going to get. So you want to adjust it for the size. So I think that's a good size. It's a good fit. You can go with smaller ones, but obviously the smaller one would not, I don't think it would be proportional and would look as good. And then we're going to and we put our other end on. We're just going to verify and do a little sanity check. A little QC check, if you will. Okay, so for this one, the flat end's pretty straightforward. You're just going to place that on there. Now you're going to need to use a line setter. This is, of course, a number 24. If I was going to be using a different size, I'd use the appropriate size. Now with this, you're not going to just smash and beat this. You're going to... You want several light taps, and that's going to give you that nice, even there. Now you want to keep that as straight up as possible, because obviously if you start shifting left or right or any direction, that's going to cause that to not set properly. Now for the round end, you're going to want to use a round anvil or an indented anvil, because if I just do this straight on the background like here, I will damage and dent that, and that's not what we want. So we're going to use an anvil of the appropriate size. We put it on our other side. And just like what we did with the button from the front, you're going to keep doing that until you hear that audible difference. Tap it a little harder. Okay. There we go. Nice and solid. And that one needs a little more too. And it's okay to go back and if you need to. You got a nice finish there. And obviously from there, with a little bit of work, you can have your very own bracelet like that. Artwork, plain, or just a simple stamp. And that is how to make a basic leather bracelet. This will be all going over again in the class. So thank you for putting up with the speed run here. And we have the class. And so just remember, you want about 5 to 6 ounce leather. Now, you can also buy pre-cut bracelets from Tandy, pre-made. And they're okay. This is an early one. I'm not a fan of their button style. It doesn't really, these don't ever seem to really fit very well in my personal opinion. But you can buy them if you really want to, you can buy them pre-cut. And then you can do all the artwork you like to it. Or there. And then, like I said, come Raucous this year, I will be in 2022, in case anybody watches this video 10 years from now. I will also I'm making patterns, so you will be getting a pattern for the different bracelet designs. So my 3 designs will be the plain one, my wrist cuff, and the medallion. Also, for those that aren't going to be at Raucous, I will be posting those online after Raucous as well, for everybody to free use, and there as well. So this is a very easy and beginner project. I think it's a great beginner project to get you started, and there's all kinds of things you can do. It's really just all a matter of what artistic ability and skill. And with that, I don't have anything else. So until next time, stay crafty.